India's tourism industry is poised to grow to $1 trillion market by 2047, creating close to 400 million jobs. This as per a Visa EY report. In fact, data-led tourism will be the pivotal driver of this growth, with sustainability, enabling technologies and evolving tourist preferences acting as primary disruptive forces for the industry. Sustainable tourism experiences have turned into a big global trend valued at $180 billion. For India, this market is predicted to grow at a 15% CAGR. In fact, as a champion of sustainable travel, India has leveraged its G20 presidency as a strong platform to promote its agenda of developing sustainable and green tourism practices. The EY Visa report has also projected that digital transformation in aviation, travel and tourism sectors will generate $305 billion in value, while transferring $100 billion away from traditional players to new contenders worldwide. Another pivotal trend revolves around evolving tourist preferences, largely driven by the influential presence of Generation Z, which accounts for 24% of the global population, with India hosting 27% of this cohort. Moreover, international tourists in India spend 26 times more than domestic tourists, making a case for turning India into a global tourism hub. Now, while these trends underline the opportunity, the expansion of India's travel and tourism market has been unprecedented. In 2022, the travel and tourism sector contributed $190 billion to the GDP and is projected to rise to $200 billion by the close of 2023, with a staggering projection of approximately $451 billion over the ensuing decade. This, as per WTTC, add to that employment within the sector, which is also expected to go up from 37.2 million in 2022 to an estimated 39 million by the end of the year. The growth is real. Make My Trip, India's biggest travel agency, now aptly dubbed a super app, clocked its highest quarterly gross bookings in the company's 23-year history. While a large part of this growth comes from the core business, the company is seeing at least 17% business coming in from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, as compared to 6% in 2019. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shereen Bhan, and joining me today are our old Turks here on Young Turks, Kalra, the founder and chairman of Make My Trip, and Rajesh, Magow, co-founder and group CEO of Make My Trip. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Always good to have you back. And that's what I meant by old. I'm not referring to the age in any form or fashion here. But there was a slew of numbers there. And if you look at any survey, any research report, any study, they're all throwing up these big numbers in terms of the opportunity for India in the travel and tourism space. Now, I want to understand from you, 23 years on, what are the big structural shifts that you're most focused on?
Yeah, thank you, Shereen. And no problem with being called old. But, the growth in travel and tourism is for good reason. I mean, if you think about it, with India's economic story being so strong, the next decade, I think 2 decades belong to India. And more importantly, it's the youth, like you rightfully called out, it's the youth that's driving this. And if India has, anything, we've got the demographic dividend. The way youth spend on travel is entirely different. So at one level, you're getting a lot of trickle down. We have India purchasing power or per capita income going from $2,000 to galloping now to hopefully $3,000 and $4,000. Mobile in everyone's hand, easy to book online, and the youth wanting to spend on experiences and not saving for what, we did in our generation. Rajesh and I are both in our 50s, and our generation was always saving up for, that first house, was saving up for a car. The youth of today don't aspire to own either of them. There's a renter generation, but they want to make it up by spending, like I said, on experiences. And number one on top of that is traveling. Traveling, seeing your own country, traveling overseas, literally traveling every long weekend that you can get, and multiple trips. So I think the boom in travel and tourism, and aiding all of this is, I think, India's infrastructure growth story as well. So getting to remote parts of the country has never been easier. We've got this road network now, which is fantastic, and we can, great roads in all parts of the country, in smaller parts. Airports now, over 120 airports, so getting to different parts has become quick. And of course, trains. Rajesh will talk about his very recent experience with the Vande Bharat train, and he was gaga about it. So I think this couldn't be a better time, knock on wood, Last time I think I said that COVID happened, so I better be careful what I what I say. But yeah, it's about time too.
No.
The
We
industry.
don't even want to go down that road, Deep. I hope that is behind us, firmly behind us. But as you pointed out, we are seeing big changes, and all of them portend well for the travel, tourism, and hospitality sectors. But Rajesh, let me flip that across to you on the back of what we just heard there from Deep, and it's starting to reflect in your numbers as well. You've clocked your highest ever quarterly gross booking and profit in Q1 of FY24. Now, as far as your positioning is concerned, as a super app today, Rajesh, which are the big opportunities, the untapped opportunities? Deep talked about rail. That's a big space that you're now looking at. What is this going to mean eventually as far as the business is concerned? How do you translate this growth that is expected into business opportunity and numbers?
No, absolutely. I mean, and let me just build on what Deep said, right? I mean, Deep spoke about some structural shifts and the structural changes that are happening, not necessarily from, let's say, consumer buying habits or spending behavior standpoint, but also infrastructure changes that is happening in India in a big way. So when we started to think more about, our travel super app, our overarching vision or goal was to be one-stop shop, like literally comprehensive product offerings on our platform for Indian travelers traveling within India and traveling outside of India. With a view that we wanted to see that we end up sort of getting more and more wallet share from Indian travelers, like every possible travel use case. This journey, if I take your mind back to, way back in, let's say, around 2008, 2009, 2010, if you recall, we had actually gone public in the US. But around 2008, 2009, around the IPO time, we used to be like only air ticketing business. We used to have 85%, 95%, 90% of our business coming from air ticketing. And at that point in time, our actually IPO pitch was that we want to build a hotel and acco business. And that is when the journey started back then. And then it has evolved over the period of time, and with smartphone born in between, into building and growing into every possible travel and travel related use case, with a view that when any traveler or any customer in India who's looking to travel, or who's even looking to plan travel at the first place, will come to Make My Trip, look at a particular use case and end up booking. And we also, by the way, saw that the buying behavior in India, unlike maybe in many other evolved countries, was to buy a transport product first. You will invariably end up buying, a flight ticket first, and, block that, keep it with you, and then start to think about building, booking, let's say, a hotel or an accommodation that you need. And then let's say, from our point of view, we were thinking that, when you get down at the airport, you are looking for a cab to get to your destination. We should be able to offer that also. So the idea was to just build one-stop shop to, a very strong customer value prop, if you will, and then leverage that over a period of time to get more wallet share, which will fuel the growth for us.
Yes, so that end-to-end customer experience that you are hoping to capitalize on, Rajesh, I'll ask you what that aspirationally will mean in terms of growth over the next few years. But Deep, I want to come back to you and address again the shifts that we are seeing in the market. And through the COVID period, what we started to see was staycations. What we started to see was this growth as far as homestays were concerned. There is, of course, the luxury end of the market, which continues to see a fair degree of traction. But where do you believe we're likely to see the next wave of disruption? What are the trends that you're noticing, both in terms of new categorization as far as the customer experience is concerned? And more importantly, what about affordability, Deep? It's still cheaper to go to many international destinations than it is to travel domestically.
Yeah, they're two very different and good questions. I think the second one from the tourist hat. So let's actually address that first. Which is what everyone is saying every time there's a spike in air prices, or particularly domestic air, and there's uproar that this is too expensive, etc., and it's cheaper to go overseas. I think we've got to fundamentally go back to economics 1.0. We've got to look, it's supply and demand. These same airlines and these same hotels who are today obviously seeing a lot of demand and therefore, pricing it right or optimizing pricing had a terrible time the last couple of years. And I don't recall anyone saying, oh my God, the hotels are so cheap or the airfares are so cheap. So that's reality of a fair marketplace. You've got to understand there's a lot of demand. They will respond and you will see more aircrafts from airlines. We've seen the two largest orders in airline history being placed by two Indian airlines. Some people can say that's too large, but the fact is it's a huge statement. So Indian aviation is on the map. I think there other carriers also growing. So we're going to see more planes come in, which will rationalize this. Right now, you're seeing a spike. Similarly, for hotel rooms, I think we have a shortage of hotel rooms in the country. And you touched upon the point of homestays, Shereen, and absolutely, homestays are an answer not to one problem, which is less hotel rooms. In some cities, that's important. In some places, there are no hotels. But COVID taught us that people wanted to go out to remote parts of the country. There was not a hotel there, but there were homes there. And people were willing to give either one room or two room or their entire home to travelers, again, at a fair price. And, we are a platform that offers now 15,000 homestays. And I think people find that a very interesting way to travel. Coming to more disruption, I think the next big thing is going to be around AI. And around machine learning, which is powering that, and helping one build a very personalized experience in travel. And just to the point Rajesh was making, like offering everything on the super app, a connected trip. So, he touched upon the point, you land at the airport, you're looking for a cab. Sure, you can do a cab hailing, but a lot of people would much rather have a car waiting for them, because we all know what happens when you reach a destination at peak time, whether it's Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, or any other city. The cars are all kind of sold out. So you got to wait very long. So you'd rather pre-book a car. And the beauty of pre-booking a car on the same app on Make My Trip is the seamless integration, which is if your flight's delayed, then your cabbie already knows that your flight's delayed, is not hanging around, doesn't go away, is waiting for you. You get out of the airport, it's typically late evening or early morning, and you have your car and you're ready to go. You can keep the car for the day, etc. Similarly with the accommodation need. And then, this journey is starting even earlier now, where we're using it for lending for trips. So trip loans and trip money is our product for that. Basis of your buying behavior with us, we know and we take a educated call on, your credit worthiness. And we go ahead and we offer you a loan for your next trip. And that's being appreciated a lot. My favorite product is actually around price lock. And price lock, as the name suggests, and it wouldn't have happened without AI, is locking in when you see a cheap price. Very often it's early, paying a tiny premium for that, call it your insurance for price. But here's the beauty. If the price gets lower, you take the advantage of the lower price. If the price goes higher, you've locked into the price. Now, that's the kind of stuff which is win-win-win. Everybody wins. The airline loves it because they can fill up their seats early in advance, which is advance purchase. Customer, obviously, it's great for them because you got a cheap price, plus you're insulated against a price increase. And it's good for us too, because we are adding value using technology. I think that's the kind of stuff we're going to see a lot more of. Or there's a trip guarantee kind of product, which happens with rail and waiting list for rail. So we'll see, I think, a lot of interesting stuff, which will make it much easier and for smarter travelers, cheaper to buy travel.
Okay, so that's as far as drawing customers in with different innovative products. But Rajesh, I want to talk about the headroom for growth. And we were just talking about the opportunity that the rail market throws up, that the bus market throws up. Now, as far as the air market is concerned, you're the clear leaders there with a significant market share. Courtesy Red Bus, you've got a significant play within the bus space as well. But, rail, what are the kind of opportunities that you see in some of these sectors where the headroom for growth for your company is significant?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before I just go to the growth point, Shereen, if you allow me, just wanted to make one important point on, what Deep was talking about, AI, ML. AI, ML has been in existence for some time. It's just the new version of this technology in the form of ChatGPT is making it even more powerful. But the important point to to keep in mind with respect to us, the way we are trying to use is the data that we have, which is underneath. A lot of the product examples that Deep gave, whether it was Fairlock or a trip guarantee, is actually built on the back of very rich data over the years that we have it for the customers, not necessarily transacting consumers like 68 million life to date that we have on all three brands, but also the search data. So it's not that we are actually using this technology on top of public data that is all available out there. A lot of the AI/ML use cases are being talked about using public data. We are talking about all the data that is very rich and high intent travel use cases data that we have, and we leveraging that to build data science models, and then on top of that, putting AI/ML into play for us to be able to give a differentiated experience, if you will. That I think is a very important point to keep in mind as well. Now coming to growth, and specifically, as you mentioned, rail and bus as well. Yes, we have in the private sector of the bus market, Redbus is by far the leading brand, and and online penetration is already there. We have the highest share of the online market. But non-private market, there's a huge headroom and an opportunity there as far as bus market is concerned. All the RTCs, thanks to COVID, one of the development was that every RTC pre-pandemic who would be apprehensive on bringing content inventory online, the digital platforms either on their own, or say put it on our platform, it happened, it accelerated. So they all started to sort of look at the digital platform more seriously. And today we have all the inventory of the majority of the RTCs that are operating in the country. So that is going to be definitely area of opportunity there. Now, interesting that you mentioned about rail. And in fact, on IRCTC, we just have gone live with our hotels product out there on IRCTC platform, just yesterday, day before yesterday, because they have all the traffic on, let's say, rail users. We have launched an independent app called Red Rail under Redbus, because our thought on Redbus is that we want to transform now Redbus as a bus brand to actually a ground transport brand. And with that thought, we started sort of building independent sort of cab or intercity cab, as well as the rail independent app that we launched. And the idea is, and we see great, a lot of headroom on new user acquisitions on the rail front, not necessarily too much of the revenue opportunity there, but definitely new user opportunity. And with new user opportunity, if we are able to then, to my earlier point on getting more wallet share, for let's say the AC buses, AC trains, or the Vande Bharat trains, and we were talking about the fares earlier, Shereen, that you were talking to Deep about, let's say airfares are high. People sometimes are falling back on, let's say, Vande Bharat or Shatabdi, because that, by the way, product is world class now. So if that, and then relatively would be cheaper. So there could be an opportunity, same set of customers who are actually taking flight, and sometimes it's expensive, falling back on either private luxury buses or, Shatabdis or the Vande Bharats of the country. There is, cross-sell and an upsell opportunity to those customers as well. So that is the second area of growth of opportunity. I would also, by the way, just share a couple of very important data points. When you look at the overall internet penetration for the travel use cases, on an aggregate basis, it will appear that it is 43%, as one of the reports is suggesting. But right now, the higher penetration is only in case of private sector buses and domestic flights. But when you go to international flights, when you go to hotels product or homestays, it is grossly underpenetrated. So and with the now smartphones, like 986 million smartphones in the country, and the penetration is going beyond 25 cities, we are going to get more and more accelerated offline to online shift that will happen. So if the industry, as you showed the number, will grow at 15%, the thumb rule is the online travel industry then grows always 2x. Of that industry number.
So that's the headroom. That's the potential headroom for growth.
Yes.
Right. Deep, I want to come back to you because, over the last 10 plus years now, we've seen you make acquisitions across the group, whether it's companies like C-Trip, we talked about Redbus early on, or even companies like Book My Forex, which you've done as far as your fintech business is concerned. Given the, the spaces that you wish to occupy and the spaces that you perhaps wish to bolster, how important is inorganic growth and inorganic opportunity going to be for you?
That's a great point, Shereen, and I think it's also a function of balance sheet. So we obviously do have the balance sheet now to look at opportunities more aggressively, as I guess we've done in the past. Our lens typically out there is things that we would take either a long time to build ourselves, because time is probably the most valuable resource for everyone, or we perhaps won't do that good a job of. So I have to tell you, what we saw in Book My Forex was a fantastic fit of someone, actually a very interesting father-son entrepreneurial team who had been building this, had understood the Forex market, deep domain experience, had been doing it for a long time offline, and struggled perhaps to go online. There are regulatory issues and otherwise, and I think it was a complementary fit. So that's a place where we definitely felt that we need that domain expertise. Similarly, with Quest to Travel, which was very deep into the large managed corporate travel space, which is quite different. So an organization like yours, or even larger companies, when they're booking travel, they want it fully integrated into their systems, into expense management, into approvals, and make it seamless so that everyone can book within their approval limits, or there are exceptions which can be done very quickly on the intranet that you're using, and everything then, the billing, etc., flows seamlessly. They had spent, I think, almost 15 years building that kind of product, and we saw a lot of value in that. So while we offered a product for SME market, or the SMB market, which is called MyBiz, which is a self-service tool, we weren't quite ready for the fully managed large corporate market. And we found that to be a pretty good acquisition, which we made over a 3-year time period. And it's worked out very well for us, because now we have a full suite offering for that. So we'll continue to use the same lens, Shereen, which is this something which we can't build? Obviously, it's something we don't have. Is it truly complementary? Linking it back to the super app that Rajesh spoke about, where does it fit in what we want to do? And we also acutely realize that it's very hard to make M&A work. So I can tell you, the largest M&A we did was when we acquired GoIbibo and Redbus, and it was a real, I think, a test of all the management capabilities that we had to fully integrate that. Redbus runs as an independent company with a fantastic, entrepreneurial team, which was there even before the acquisition. But GoIbibo got fully integrated. And it took a lot to integrate. So I think there's always that at the back of our mind. This is going to work on a PPT. This is going to work on Excel. But to make it work on the ground, when you integrate a company fully, I think there you've got to sign up for a lot of work from top management. So that's the way we look at inorganic.
Absolutely. It requires a significant amount of bandwidth. But Deep, is there anything on the anvil at this point in time?
Being a listed company, I think that's something which we can only share when things get near done. But we're always scouting. We have a small but very focused team for M&A, and we are always scouting.
Always scouting. Rajesh, I know you're going to throw the same response at me. You're listed, so you're not going to be able to forecast a quarter or two ahead. But let me ask you the aspirational growth number. If, in fact, we are going to see the travel business explode the way that the numbers suggest at this point in time, what could the aspirational revenue, the gross booking number, be for you over the next few years?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it'll be hard for me to sort of quote exact number, but let me just tell you directionally the way we are thinking about this. See, coming out of 2 years of sort of COVID recovery, 1 full year of recovery, we had entered into this fiscal with a lot of optimism and a lot of actually confidence with the macro tailwinds behind us, seasonality coming in the beginning of the summer quarter, and that has played out beautifully. And this is despite that there was, call it travel inflation, which was higher than the overall inflation in the country, because the fares were still high, even the room tariffs were still high. But despite that, there was momentum on the demand side. So we feel very confident about the demand positive outlook continuing from short term to mid term to long term. And some of the long-term data is already there, with the industry players looking at very, very positive from a long-term outlook standpoint. And some of the industry reports are also suggesting a very high growth rate. But if you in the year-on-year growth of close to into 30s, anywhere between 20 to 30% is going to be a decent growth number to look on your screen. This has been the most sort of satisfying journey of turning the company, which was pre-pandemic. We were sort of getting into a break even, and we were almost set to turn the company profitable, and pandemic happened. And we had to rebuild the entire business, literally a 6 billion top line business, which was sort of, down to nothing right after the lockdown.
Yeah.
In 1920, we were like minus 70 million adjusted operating loss to, full year fiscal year 23 to 70 million positive adjusted operating profit. It's been quite a journey. And then we started the year with a very healthy margin of a $30 million adjusted operating profit, which is about 15% margin. So we see it both from, from a growth standpoint and overall from a midterm to long-term standpoint, a story which will be a profitable growth story with an expansion on margin that is happening over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, that certainly is going to be the case as far as Make My Trip is concerned. That's at least the forecast of the management. But Deep, very quickly in 30 seconds before I let you go, do you believe that that's likely to be the forecast for the startup ecosystem? There's been a lot of pain, but also a lot of focus on getting to profitability. Your take?
Yeah, for the startup ecosystem, clearly funding winter is there, but it also means that the better startups will do better. There is capital available for better companies. There are enough angel funds coming up. There are enough entrepreneurs, internally domestic entrepreneurs who want to fund young startups. So I think, Shereen, it's almost a filtering process. It's, the men from the boys, and you're going to see better companies continue to do well. There's no better place to be today than India. Cycles are there. They are probably sharper cycles, but shorter. So I think companies who can just tide over and do the right thing, not run out of capital and stay focused on the product that they're building, I think are going to benefit. And it's going to be a fantastic next decade for anyone who's a smart and committed entrepreneur.
Well, you're hearing it from two smart and committed entrepreneurs who've pretty much seen it all over the last 20 years. Deep, Kalra and Rajesh, thanks very, very much as always for joining us here on Young Turks. We wish you the very best of luck, and it's great to have you back on the program as always. That's Make My Trip with the forecast and the outlook for India's travel and tourism sector over the next few years. We will take a break. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a minute with more right after this.